If Marathon releases with one game mode and no FFA, Horde mode, Conquest mode, TDM, Infection mode, and no cooperative experience, I will be very disappointed.
Bungie's new game, Marathon, was teased today.
I just had a parcel arrive, and it's from Bungie.
I just got this package, and it's from Bungie.
Hello guys, I have some news. Today, Monday, April 7th, I received 2 packages that I believe might have something to do with the game Marathon. And to set up a very inline environment. I was very inspired by the fauna of Marathon, so I brought all my wife's luscious plants out while I opened these. So let's see what we were sent. I'm gonna start with the big box.
A mysterious package. It's got a bunch of coordinates and stuff on it. It's actually a pretty cool box. It's funny that one of my L's doesn't fit. Green Skull is almost the perfect length.
I've ever done an unboxing video on this channel besides unboxing fish that I've ordered. So hopefully this goes well and the camera doesn't miss anything, and I am hecking excited to see what's in here. If you guys don't know what this is a Marathon welcome kit for creators. I signed up a little while ago and I didn't hear anything back, so I assumed I didn't get into the program, but here we are. So how about we open this up and see what's inside?
Ooh, this is a serious box. I'm gonna open the camera.
All right, so hopefully you guys can see that and my hands aren't gonna get in the way or anything like that. First thing is this awesome sticker. I do not want to break it. This is such a nice touch. I am interested if this is like some sort of code that people are gonna uncover. This whole box is just full of stuff already on the outside that's like, feels like secrets knowing Bungie. Oh.
Let's see what's in here. Okay, this is actually so cool. The graphic design on this box is so beautiful.
A metal card? This is firmly placed. There we go. EscapeWillMake.me. April 12th, 2025. That's when they're gonna reveal stuff. Symbols on the back.
It's a pretty cool site. It tracked my camera and I got to make selections using my hands. Honestly, kind of confusing though. I don't know what's happening. No one does, but it's provocative.
Okay, we have more. Okay. And we start off with... What is this? Can I take it out? Escape will make me. And it's got my username on it. Oh. Okay. Can I take it out? Is it stuck? It is glued in there a little bit. I don't want to break it. Is there... This actually feels like a folder where you'd have a document in it, but I don't think there is. So that's what we're looking at there. Oh my god. Alright, so what have we got in here? Prep your shells is going to be a push. Just a quick heads up, if you plan on posting about our gift, please tag it with #ad. We want to keep everything transparent. Thanks for being part of our journey. Let's build something amazing together. Cheers, the Bungie team. What if that's actually a website? Interesting. So far, every piece of this has been personalized, and that is very overwhelming. I love it. So, the website exists. Welcome Suckers Vixen, accessible terminal and desktop. Marathon reveal showcase April 12th. Okay, I'll need to pull this off on the desktop. Alright, headset is on, sound is on. Recording is on. Clicking now.
This foam. What is going on in here? Silkworm. That is the most adorable thing. That is the most adorable thing I've seen in my life. Look at this thing.
Love it. What is this? This has been vacuum sealed, so. Silkworm. Oh, is this a plushie? Oh my god. Oh, look at him. Oh my god. We'll have to wait for him to puff up a bit more, I think. He's a bit wrinkly at the moment. Bit wrinkly.
Well, that's freaking awesome. I can't wait for the gameplay reveal. It's gonna be like an extraction shooter. I know the gunplay is gonna be amazing. The style's amazing. Thank you, Bungie. This is so cool, and I can't wait to see what you guys are cooking up.
Oh my god, that was a lot. I am a little bit overwhelmed. Thanks again to Bungie for sending this out. This has been absolutely incredible. I really appreciate all the things that you guys do for me. It is absolutely amazing, and I'm so excited to hear more about Marathon and to have it come out.
I was just editing this video and this pulls up in the mail. So let's open it, I guess. It's beautiful. It's signed by Joe Ziegler and Joseph Cross. I just want to say a quick thank you to Bungie for sending this out to me. And I want to thank you guys for making all of this possible.
Oh shit. Ooh, look at that. Here, I'm gonna hold it up to the camera.
Marathon is a team-based extraction shooter set around the mysterious and cutthroat world of Tau Ceti 4.
Flair when it comes to gaming. I'm not super picky like I used to be when everyone just wanted games to be basically real life. But this is just generic looking. Remember Babylon's Fall? How it was supposed to look like an oil painting but just ended up looking like Dark Souls' alcoholic uncle? That's Marathon.
You are a runner. A cybernetic mercenary who's given up their human form for a biosynthetic shell with unique abilities and stats.
With runners who have unique abilities in a sci-fi dystopia set in space with permadeath loot mechanics and zero proximity chat. Oh, 100%. I think that they need to add prox chat to this game. It's not quite Tarkov, it's definitely not Destiny, it has hero shooter elements, but doesn't fully commit to them. It's like someone smashed together Hunt Showdown, Apex Legends, and a synthwave music video and then just hit the shuffle button.
Capable of both tactical and fast-paced combat.
Say a fast character, which is mostly what I played for this alpha, with fast abilities. I don't want the fast abilities to have some arbitrarily long wind-up time. When I hit the go fast button, I should go fast. It shouldn't be I hit the go fast button and wait to watch a 1-second magical girl transformation anime thing and then go fast. That is way too much. Playing a defensive character, maybe a character with pings or something like that, like I get it. But the fast character having slow abilities is just brain dead to me. I also think that this game has deliberately slowed movement. I know that's Bungie's specialty between Destiny and Halo. And it's also a lot like Concord. Concord had very slow movement. As a matter of fact, when it first came out, people were calling it Sloverwatch. And a pretty similar thing is happening here. The characters that you play can sprint pretty fast. They've got decent movement like that, but sprinting builds up heat. If you build up too much heat, you'll overheat and you won't be able to do any abilities or anything until you fully cool down, so it punishes you for that. The downside is that when you're sprinting, you don't have to go very far before you overheat. You can build that up very, very easy. The climbing system they built is generous, so that's nice, but jumping or double jumping also builds up heat, so climbing is going to tire you out. Falling more than a few feet will cause you to lose a fair bit of health. I thought it would be a no fall damage game, seeing as how you're playing a little robot. Using your melee attacks adds a pretty significant amount of heat as well, and slows you down as you're doing it. It's very clunky, slow kind of stab. And most of the game's movement-related mechanics seem to be designed to make you slow. They're not designed for everything to feel fast or normal, and for some classes to feel a little faster. Rather, it feels like the movement mechanics are built to make you feel slow, and some classes feel slightly less slow.
Fighting a crew of up to 3 players across a variety of zones and points of interest. You'll face rival runners in zones of up to 18 players, countless security forces, and otherworldly threats.
Moving along, I think that there's an inconsistent player versus player experience. Highly variable loot means highly variable player combat, and I usually like variety, but this kind is a little bit frustrating to me, because sometimes you run into some broke boys that are doing a 0 to hero run and you can just overwhelm them because you have superior shields. Other times you run into a squad that has high level weapons and they'll drop you almost instantly. I cannot, for the life of me, get a feel for the expected time to kill in combat. The abilities vary a lot from player to player. You don't know what people are going to pull out and pop on you. The weapons, highly variable as well, in terms of rarity and damage and output and performance and reload and handling and all this kind of stuff. And I get that looter shooter, you want to get better weapons, right? Extraction shooter, that's the goal. But it kind of makes combat less fun because it's difficult to gauge the strength of your opponents. At least I found it difficult to gauge the strength of my opponents. And I'm not asking for weak opponents, but I do just kind of want to have an idea of what I'm going up against.
Remains of a lost colony for glory and fortune. The environments of Tau Ceti 4 are filled with weapons, materials, and equipment you can scavenge throughout the map.
It's a bit of micromanagement with backpacks and, you know, swapping things in and out and like standing at crates and waiting for loot to flicker into existence. And this is a lot of extraction stuff. Like you get upgrades to speed up your looting time and like so you can see all the loot faster. And I don't know, a lot of this stuff feels like problems in search of a solution. It's supposed to be like there's a little more tension there. It makes you more vulnerable. It can be fun if you're flicking through all this stuff and then like some big item comes up there.
Before deploying, you'll strategically build your loadout and select a runner to ensure you're equipped for the run ahead. Your objective is simple. Get in, gather as much loot as you can, and make it out alive. Die, and all your gear will be up for grabs. Survive, and your loot can be taken into future runs as you grow in power and fill your vault.
Vision where I'm like, I don't really like getting loot and then losing it potentially. It's just not a concept that really appeals to me. You know, part of this is maybe because I'm just not good enough at PvP to just be owning everyone and racking up great loot and great loot and great loot. But I just, it feels like it really spirals in one direction or the other because you have the players that are super good in amassing all this stuff, and then they enter a game with a lot of top tier loot and are just destroying everything, including you. And then you have the players who are struggling, and you know, it's a spiral if you just keep losing and losing your loot, and then you're buying like these base tier packages with your dwindling credit funds.
Death is inevitable, but it's never the end. Think quickly on your feet and outplay your opponents, and in your next run, you and your teammates will be the ones coming out on top. And even if you're down on your luck, factions can sponsor you with a fresh loadout, so you can get right back into the fight.
Maybe if they had a system, like I'm looking at the words now, like how they've got priority contract, you can only do the one contract currently in Marathon at a time. I think there needs to be some sort of option for you to be able to do more than one contract at a time, but maybe it's like a lesser version. Like maybe you can do a priority contract with one faction, and then you can do some other ones that maybe don't give you quite as much rep, but at least you're still doing other things. Like maybe you could select 2 or 3 other random contracts from the other factions, or maybe it has to be from the same faction. I feel there needs to be some option for definitely jumping in with more than one contract. I think that needs to be an adjustment they make.
Bungie brings its best-in-class first-person multiplayer action to the forefront. Dynamic and tactile gunplay, runners with unique playstyles, and customizable builds create highly dynamic and strategic team fights.
Also with the AI, man, there's so much AI. It's incredible how much AI that they can put in this game. I played about 7 hours, and I'm gonna be dead honest. I got into about 12 to 15 gunfights with people. I don't know if I got super unlucky and people were just extracting early after they finished a quick contract, took a couple minutes, and then they extract. I have no idea. About 12 to 15 gunfights the entire day. The rest was just getting bombarded with AI. And you don't just kill the AI that's in the map. They infill into the map.
Whether you're on a zero to hero run or high rolling with powerful gear, you'll need to use your best judgment when you decide which fights to pick and how. Because no matter how geared you are, players with skill and strategy will always have the edge. Marathon is designed to be played in crews, with contextual ping.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's just a cut together of footage. If you're looking very carefully at it, one thing that should pretty much become apparent if any of you have played Destiny 1 or Destiny 2, which is, again, Bungie's big MMO game before this, the actual animation work, like literally the knife toss here, I can absolutely recognize from Destiny right here.
Shared objectives, and down but not out, to streamline playing with your friends. Death is not the end. And if you're the last one standing, you can overcome the odds to revive your teammates and get out with your hard-earned loot.
It also breaks it down to clutch situations where even if you're in a 1v3 scenario or a 2v3 scenario and you guys are able to get out 2 enemies, you're probably going to have to eliminate those same 2 or 3 enemies multiple times just due to the revive system. When your squad is outnumbered, it's going to be a lot harder for you to push on a full squad. And when you're in these 1v3s or 2v3 situations, when you get one of their enemies full killed, the chances that they're just going to be able to revive them and keep the fight going is pretty high when you're already outnumbered. So you're going to be theoretically in a 1v3. You full kill someone, he gets revived. You full kill someone else, he gets revived. It quickly turns 1v3s into what feels like 1v6s or 1v7s because the enemy team is consistently and constantly able to get revives on their allies when they're full killed, when you as a solo or even as a 2-stack are not able to because of the pure numbering that the enemy team has and their ability to easily get revives compared to your squad, which may have less members during the fight. To make that all shorter, all this means is that killing players doesn't feel rewarding because of how easy it is for them to be brought back in the fight, and killing players doesn't even necessarily remove much of a threat because it only takes 10 seconds for that threat to be reintroduced into the conflict.
And if you believe your skills alone are enough to conquer any challenge, we give you the freedom to opt out of crew fill to take all the glory for yourself as a solo runner.
Marathon is doing with its 3-player squad fill being on by default ends up being inundated by community requests for a solo queue to give individual players a chance to experience the game on their own, and in Marathon it's actually even worse than it normally is. The way Marathon presents its squad-style gameplay in a more casual format is nothing new to the extraction shooter genre, and there are 3 main features that this game uses that distinctly sets it apart from the big daddy Escape from Tarkov. These are no friendly fire, indicators for teammates, and the revive mechanic. This is a classic format for the newer games that have more recently launched, such as Arena Breakout and Delta Force, and in trying to make something like Tarkov more accessible to the masses, they crucify solo players and ensure that they can never play the game at all, at least not reasonably. Friendly fire is pretty obvious. If you can't hurt your own teammates, it matters much less when they are stood in the way when you shoot. This makes positioning within your squad much less important, and combines with the teammate indicators to ensure that you'll never get confused between friends and enemies either. So you're unlikely to shoot them in the first place, but even if they are in the way, it doesn't matter. Within a game like Tarkov, having to communicate with your team is absolutely critical, as it can be hard to identify friend from foe, and if you get it wrong, they die at your hands. This is a serious difference between these two games, and the balance between teams and solo actually rests on this mechanic too. Squads get the added firepower, more eyes, and support from teammates when in trouble, with the downside being that you have to be super careful with target identification and teamwork and comms. Solos, on the other hand, have no backup and rely on themselves for everything, but they can shoot on sight without hesitation. This interplay makes a game like Tarkov interesting. You never know how many you're going to be playing against in each engagement, and whether that second or third player killed is actually the last in the squad.
No two runs in Marathon ever play out the same. With dynamic events, variable weather, and unpredictable players, you'll have to adapt on the fly if you want to survive. Each run has a time limit, and anything can happen while you're chasing your objective. Looking to unlock upgrades or increase your faction reputation? Slip into the shadows as Void and ghost past your enemies. Search the map for rare materials and profit opportunities without being discovered. Want to push enemy teams and steal their loot? Bring in Glitch with agility implants and your strongest weapons to disrupt rival crews. Running support for your friends, grab extra equipment, shield charges, and a specialized backpack to be the lifeline they need.
Complexity, but not a lot of conceptual depth. Maybe the most we can say about them is Hardly Quinn, Rogue, RoboCop, even more RoboCop. It's hard to say, honestly. So the best long-term solution for any designer is to hit a balance of low visual complexity and high conceptual depth. That's when we hit elegance. Elegance in our case would mean a design with a small number of visual elements that carry a lot of meaning. When any designer says that's clean, that's good, the word they're looking for is elegance.
You're always free to experiment with team compositions, and the only limit to how you want to play your runner is your loot and imagination. Endgame challenges, ranked play, discovering secrets, seasonal storytelling, community events, and more all await you in Season 1, where you and your friends will start to unravel the mysteries of Tau Ceti 4. Remember, you're only ever one run away from your next big score.
Is this?
A loss meme? In this economy?
Ain't no fucking way. You're at a loss in the 29th century.
Some poor bastard is going to try and solve this Easter egg hidden lore, only to discover it's a dev shitpost LOL.
I feel like only GTA 6 conspiracists are capable of that.
This next to the number makes me think it's some kind of shitpost cipher.
Welcome back, Raiders and Runners. I now have 50 hours in the Arc Raiders Technical Test 2, which was only over like 4 days.
So it seems like I'm kind of becoming an extraction shooter guy, and as you may know, I've been talking a lot about Marathon, how I feel like Marathon should probably be delayed, how it needs a little bit more time to cook. And while the Marathon closed alpha was happening and player attrition was happening quite drastically, this little game came along called Arc Raiders.
Marathon might have been taking all of the headlines recently, but this new sci-fi extraction shooter, which is essentially the exact same category as Marathon, might be better in every single way. Beautiful, releasing on consoles. What is it? This is Arc Raiders.
I thought to myself, wow, Marathon needs to be delayed. Arc Raiders not only nails the visual style that they were targeting, but it nails the vibe of the world that they're trying to build. It nails loot. It figured out how to keep that level of tension up at all times. And having come straight off of Marathon, I just don't know how Marathon can find a space in the extraction shooter genre at this point when there's games of this caliber coming along. Yes.
All right, Arc Raiders, I'm going to tell you my opinion on it. I'm going to tell you what I loved, what I liked, and what's not so hot. So let's get to it.
And there are multiple components that create tension and atmosphere. Arc has fantastic tension and atmosphere. It's fantastic to play. It's fantastic to watch. Marathon was lacking in this case. And why is that? I think one of the main components is the map and the map design combined with enemies.
The audio for this game, completely rightfully so. Every little minute detail, to even sliding down hills, the dust kicking up, hearing enemy footsteps and movement, especially since the world is relatively quiet, as well as you hear the ambient noise changing from day to night. The weapons sound, some of them sound insane. The explosions do. We were pinned in this building with a bastion, this giant crab turret, laying down machine gun fire. We couldn't hear anything, talking to each other, while also trying to fight another team.
Hey, be careful. These guys sound like they're definitely fighting.
This is right at the top here. This is right at the top. This might be better. Yeah, come up. Knock one. Knock one.
Coming.
Don't you crawl in the open out there! Yep, I found the bison! Hurt! Hit him, dead! The immersion of this game just felt unlike anything with all of the detail.
Ark is fantastic. They are very, very memorable areas that feel like mini PvP maps. There are angles, there are entry points, there are exit points, there are opportunities to flank, sometimes without any tools and sometimes with tools. You can unlock zip lines and grapple hooks, which are kind of like mid and end game tools, which give you crazy plays to like flank players. But when I was playing Ark, we would enter an area and it's got this nice flow to it. And I'd be like, all right, comms. We're going to probably encounter players here. Right, and you start checking corners, you start checking the corridor, you go, I'm going to open this door now, expect a player to be here. There's also like a noise component. You're listening for players looting. You have like entry security cameras that start buzzing, which will let anyone know inside that you're approaching and potentially give you away. You can take them out with silenced weapons if you want to be sneaky. But overall, I think PvP map design is hard and it's hard to describe. But I think everyone knows, especially if you play D2, there are some good PvP maps and there are some bad PvP maps. And they have this ebb and flow to them where the game feels good. Ark just has that in its indoor buildings. There are very memorable sections that feel like a PvP map that have good callouts, good angles, and high tension. Marathon, I feel, is kind of missing that. In Marathon, I kind of just feel like, hey, I'm just going to send it. We're going to hope for the best and hope nobody's inside. I can't really remember the layout of the building. Most of them are just kind of square with the entry exit point in every corner. And that's about it. There's obviously some elevation to a lot of the buildings in Marathon when you got ladders and find staircases and stuff like that. But I struggle to really define why the buildings in Marathon, the indoor spaces, weren't that fun for PvP or even versing AI versus Ark, which felt like I was playing a really good PvP map in third-person perspective.
So let's talk about it. Here's what I loved. What I loved was the environments. The maps in this game are really, really cool. There's Spaceport, there's Dam, there's a more buried city, urban environment, and it is just so much fun traversing through them. It seems well designed. There's verticality to some of them. They look great. There's distinct areas on the map. At one point, you can look for fruit to feed to your rooster. There's a rooster in this game that collects scrap for you. It's just part of the progression. It's pretty funny.
In Ark, you have these patrolling drones. You have this heightened threat outside of buildings. When you're scurrying around on the outside, there are like sentinel snipers that lock on to you from a mile away. There are these little drones that follow you. There are different types of drones with different threat levels. You really feel like you're a rat scurrying around outside, which is thematically correct because you are a raider and you live underground. The surface has been taken over by robots, and that theme comes through really strong. And what it does, the way the maps are designed and the use of enemies, it makes you feel like you are threatened all the time when you are outside. And so what happens is has this fantastic flow to the map where you run to the safety of a building, and of course there could be players inside, and there are some other robots that lurk inside too, called ticks, that will jump on you and start attacking you. Regardless, you feel this constant bubbling tension when you're playing Ark.
I think it just needs one more unique bit, and I'm hoping for Terminator robots, like a Skynet. I think that would be cool, because most of the bots are just kind of little flyers that float in the air, and then, you know, the huge tank, and then the big queen. But I need some like skeletal or robot kind of stuff. And then if you do that, extractions can be harder because those guys will show up. And then if you do that, you can have a new game mode, something unique for this game. And I suggest you guys do full cooperative mission battles versus those Terminators, like going to the surface with the intended goal that everybody's going to be working together in this particular one. But then you could still loot dead bodies or something. I don't know. Yeah, let your friends, let them die. It's friendly fire, but you can't hurt them. But the enemies can hurt them, so you refuse to help them.
Marathon, I don't think gives you that tension and atmosphere outside. In fact, I think the outside environments are probably the weakest component of Marathon right now, and hopefully will have some of the most work put into them. There's not much reason to be outside in Marathon. There's not a huge amount of good loot outside that you want to be moving around maps. The outside areas is really just an in-between before you get to another building to enter. And the outside areas, in my opinion, don't really have threat from enemy AI. The outside areas are mostly threatenable by other players seeing you cross an area. And I think that's a part of the game they can improve in Marathon, is doing something to increase that constant tension when you're playing the game in outside areas. Okay, my next topic, enemies. Now, I've kind of covered this a little bit with like the map flow and design because they go hand in hand, but I got more to say about it. In Ark Raiders, the enemies have a varied threat level. There are certain enemies that you can take out with any gun. The Wasp is just a little drone that shoots like a machine gun, and doesn't matter what weapon you're using, if it uses light ammo, medium ammo, or heavy ammo, you can take it out. However, with the drones, there goes up to like a Rocketeer that has like armor plating on it on the front, and if it's facing you and you only have light ammo, you are probably dead. And so most of the time you're going to be running away seeking cover in a building, this is why I'm saying there's this tension outside, and you seek cover, then you stumble into play, then you're dead. Either way, there is this variation in threat level with the enemies, and it goes higher and higher and higher. Eventually you get to Bastions and Bisons, which are these like roaming huge robots that will mess your day up unless you come fully prepared. You can kill them. You need to probably craft endgame grenades and other weapons, or like what I did, I used proximity chat to recruit other players to help me kill stuff. Very, very fun. And there's even like a boss level robot that has certain weak points that open when they do certain move sets. Like this little thing comes out of the top of the queen when it fires a laser beam. So you have to bait out an attack to shoot its weak spot, or you have to have high enough penetration on your ammo to shoot other parts of the robot. Now, if I didn't tell you I was talking about Ark Raiders, you'd probably think I'm talking about a Bungie game, because this is very Destiny 2. Enemy design. We've got weak spots, we've got giant creatures and robots, teamwork to take these things down, and some sort of strategy. This is what is missing from Marathon. I don't feel like there is much strategy to taking out the current enemies in Marathon. Doesn't matter what weapon you really have, you can basically deal with all the enemies. You have the UESC, the United Earth Space Council, I think, which are just humanoid robots. And they all kind of die by shooting them in the face. And unless you've got a shotgun and you're out of range, you can deal with them with your team. There are varied threat levels in Marathon, like you get ones with shields, and you get the Ghost UESC, which I think is probably the most interesting enemy type, who goes invisible. But you still deal with them all the same way. And I think more importantly, there is nothing on the Marathon map that you have to run away from.
Really interesting way that they set up the NPCs and the enemies on this game is that the only enemies that are AI are literally robots. They're turrets, they're little robot drones that are flying around, or balls that are on the ground, or giant scarab turrets. Any bipedal humanoid looking thing is an actual person, and that is an actual human that you are fighting. So it was always very clear if you are fighting an actual player and you are in a PvP battle. And to that point on PvP, most of the fights, especially at the beginning, were battles. These weren't just like you completely stomp a team and there's nothing that they could have done. You get the opening knock and then they're completely ripped. These were back and forth, long, drawn-out combat sessions. These were like those end games in a battle royale, at least from what we were experiencing, both when we tried playing duos, even when I was playing with some randoms. But I will say towards the end of our day, at least today, we really figured out this game. We managed to get some shotguns, we had some smoke grenades, and in some of these team fights, we were smoking out, closing in, sometimes running away, throw them off guard, then push in and stomp them with the shotgun. Like, we had some good moments, but even once you kill a team, here comes another team right after you. You kind of can play the angles because it is third person with that higher time to kill, get around cover. It still takes quite a while to heal up. You're going to move slow. You got to take shields. Everybody has a base layer of health, and you can upgrade your shields green, blue, and purple for additional health. You can even craft more shields and heals in raid with the entire looting system, which I'll touch on in a second. But I think what was happening, especially because even when we were dominating, killing everybody in the lobby, there was so much PvP the entire way through because I think more enemies kept spawning in. See, a raid starts with, I believe, 30 minutes. It might depend on the map, but you might sometimes spawn in with only 15 minutes left on a raid. You're going into a game that has already begun. You can be spawning in, ready to third party somebody right away, or spawn at the beginning of the raid with everything fresh to loot yourself. And what made the PvE more fun, for me at least, was how dangerous it was. First of all, sound is incredibly important. If they hear something, they're going to come over with yellow eyes and investigate. If they see you, their eyes go red, they're going to start shooting you. You hear those shots from the drones or the swarms, you know you're about to get pushed because people can hear you from super far away. If you get knocked out or somebody else gets knocked out, a red flare gets shot into the sky. And the first time I was hearing that, I was getting chills. I was like, are we going over there? What's going down over there? Somebody just died. That's our third party. They could have died from anything. Depending on the enemy that you're fighting, there's like a basic swarm, drone. You got to hit their weak spots in order to shoot their blades out, make the thing crash to the ground. Or if there's a hornet, it's got the front blades are armored. You got to focus on the back blades. Some things are so scary and big, we didn't even want to try and fight it. There's a rocketeer that's drone in the sky that shoots rockets. We ultimately tried to shoot at multiple times, but ended up killing us too many times. We just were running out of there. But I let it mostly focus on the PvP. And if you were engaged by a drone, you could outrun it. You kind of had to position yourself around them and understand that they were real threats you had to go around, but it wasn't like there was an absurd swarm of little things you got to just keep headshotting and it's annoying to go through and clear them all out. It's more of a centralized threat.
All right, let's move on to events and secrets. Ark has this event system that goes through like a rotation, very similar to like a Destiny 2 public event thing, where when you look at a map, it may have an event running. And these are really, really good. They either completely change the ebb and flow of the map, or they reinforce hotspots. So for example, there was one where, I can't remember exactly what it's called and I can't see it now, but it's something like hidden loot caches. And it says something like, oh, you know, raiders who have gone to the surface have hidden their best loot, but they've timed it to blow up. And that's all it says. And then when you go in, it is incredibly subtle, and I wouldn't have even heard it unless I had a friend that told me about it. He's like, hey, listen to this. I was like, what? I'm not hearing anything. I'm hearing birds. I'm hearing like gunfire. He's like, no, just listen. I was like, oh, there's a ticking sound. He's like, yeah, follow the ticking sound. We follow the ticking sound, and there is a buried loot box. We dig it up, and it has some good loot in it. And it is everywhere. And what they've done is they've scattered it around the outskirt of the map. And usually the outskirts of the map doesn't have very good loot. So all of a sudden now, when this event is on, the hotspots, and I think people hadn't worked it out yet because people weren't doing it. We were cleaning up. But when the game goes live, I can guarantee rather than the center buildings, which is usually like the loot hotspots. When this event is running, now all the combat and all the players are going to be running through the bushes looking for these hidden loot boxes. And it completely changes the flow of the map and your objective for going into that map. Like, okay, I'm going to farm these. The loot inside was incredibly good. Like, I'll talk about it a little bit later, but Arc Raider has like a crafting recipe. Sometimes it's basically like end game gear and almost like exotic level crafting. So very rewarding to like grab these loot boxes and to have a look at them. But changes the flow of the map, changes where players go, and gives players a different reason to go to the map and have a different objective. Another example would be reinforcing the way the map already plays. There is one map called Spaceport, and essentially in the center there's a giant tower, and you got to cross this open field to get there. Very fun, very epic, filled with robots to get there. And there is an event that makes the loot even better at the top. So you have players, very sweaty players, rushing this one building to get to the top of the tower and to get the loot. It reinforces the flow of the map. Other thing is the Harvester and the Queen event. There is a boss level queen that has weak spots that you can kill, that has mechanics, and she's guarding a loot area that has a multi-stage puzzle to solve. I've made a separate video about this. I'll link it down below if you want to watch it. It is absolutely epic. You have to get in there. You have to press these buttons. You have to insert canisters. You have to shoot buttons around the outside. It is on the level. I mean, by Destiny standards, it's a simple puzzle. But when you put a simple puzzle into an extraction shooter surrounded by a boss that you probably can't kill, and other players are going to try kill you, it's more than enough.
So there's this queen that can roam around on the map, but the thing is, nobody is attacking it together. This is a game where you shoot on sight. And there's supposed to be a system where you're like friendly and you put a flare or something, but you just really cannot cooperate with other teams. Like I said, it's just shoot on sight. So I don't know how they're going to fix this, how to get people to stop shooting each other. It's almost impossible because people would always rather just take the loot that you have rather than cooperate fighting this huge robot that looks like it would be an awesome, fun battle. But then how would you delve up the loot? That people would fight over that and kill each other over that. I have some creative solutions. I think maybe you could force other players to cooperate. Maybe an animation automatically goes up if you get a certain distance within the queen, and then your guy fires a flare, the animation just happens, and then a message pops up that the loot will be shared. Don't worry. If you take this thing down and you open it up, you'll get a share of the loot. You don't have to kill each other for it. Something like that, because right now that boss battle does not work because you cannot take it out on your own. There's just not enough powerful weapons. You need to take it on with multiple teams, but nobody cooperates because it's shoot on sight. So that needs to be fixed.
This is what I expected Marathon to have. A boss in an area guarding loot that requires some sort of puzzle to solve. And once again, these are on events. These only have 2 hours to do it. So when this was up, I'm like, go, 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 go. We've got to try get this loot as quick. We've got to try farm this. I felt like I was doing strike missions and trying to farm, but we were pushing this point to try to get the best loot and solve this puzzle and get out while everyone else is trying to kill us. Did Marathon have that level of events and secrets? They have these little public events that are running, but I don't think they weren't as enjoyable or as complex or as epic as I think they probably should be, or maybe even as rewarding. And once again, like, I feel like that's Bungie's wheelhouse, like cooperative activities, public events. Like, this is something they should be very, very good at and can put into an extraction shooter to be their point of difference. But here we are with Arc doing it better.
On the screen as you would expect. So while I'm running across an open field and I want to look at my map for where the hell I'm going, in this game, I can be moving and pull my map up and look at the map while I continue to move. You can't do that in Marathon. In fact, you can't even scroll in on the map. On this, you could scroll in on the map, see the detail, mouse up, you can see where everything is, and I love that. Same thing, just something, it's the small details sometimes, but when I want to start moving forwards, on Marathon I had to hit W and then I had to hit shift. If I hit shift first and then try to do W, I'd have to release and then re-hold it down to start sprinting. And it was like this order of operations I had to really think about. I couldn't just go. And this, just like most games like COD, Battlefield, whatever, you can hold shift and hit W and you just instantly go sprinting. And maybe, you know, it's just different stages of development forward as well. Totally true. And I'm not going to go through every little piece of nitpicky whatever for you guys here, but you got to understand what I'm saying. That's what means more to me. And I will say this felt like it's already a launch game. Honestly, this felt better than Call of Duty for the amount of bugs that are in that game versus this, which was the exact same feeling that I had with Delta Force in their alpha, which I've now put a ridiculous amount of hours into, and even Arena Breakout Infinite, which I never fully committed all the hours into, but nonetheless played phenomenally.
That is actually, I think, important for a flow of a map and to build tension. Is like, I can't deal with this right away. In Marathon, you can deal with every enemy from game 1. In Arc, you cannot deal with every enemy from game 1. You have to build up towards those pinnacle enemies to deal with them. And you might even have to recruit other players to help you do it. I think Marathon is missing pinnacle enemies, variants in enemy type. I don't think they've got enough enemy types in the game. They've got the UESC and they got ticks, which is like aliens that come and jump at you. I don't think it's enough. And
looting system. You find items that you can use for crafting, weapons, armor, repair, but you can also sell it if you don't need it for that. Or you can recycle it, take it apart into its components, which can then be used for other crafts. Or even if you're in raid, dismantle it for not as many resources, or maybe the resources that you would get out of raid for the best components, but you could still use that to then craft bandages, shield repairs. And the UI again tells you what everything is for. If this item is used to craft and exactly what it crafts. Some items are just used to be deconstructed. Some you kind of need for quests and you're not going to know that, or you need it to level up your workbenches or weapons benches that you end up creating. But you can go in and manually track those. It will warn you that, you know, this is the item that you need for it. And it doesn't tell you the price of what everything is worth. So there's still kind of that little bit of knowledge that you get from playing the game where it's like, oh, okay, this item is worth 5K. Man, this other gray item, it's a little trinket, it's only worth 1K. I know now I'm just going to bring this one, while still having more straightforward stuff. Like if it is a purple item that's worth 10 grand, which I did find a couple mixtapes of, those are worth a lot. And that whole retro style, even it being sci-fi, just cool.
Arc Raiders right now feels like a finished product. And both Marathon and Arc Raiders, I think, are kind of on the same timeline for release. Arc Raiders, I don't believe, is given a release date, but I think it's expected this year as well. So these two games that are very close to release. We don't really know how much progress has been on Marathon, and what kind of build we played and how much has already been done while we played this build. But Arc Raiders, as of right now, is a complete product, and there is even more things on top that it adds that Marathon doesn't have.
I think these are just all going to be separate games. Everybody just loves to compare it, myself included, but I gotta say, after playing these last 2 days, like I just want to keep playing. Like I keep on being impressed by this game. And I do think though that end game, like there's only going to be so much content in something like this. It very well could be that after 50 hours I've done all of the missions that are here and there's nothing else to do. Hopefully they have more at the back end of this. It seems so thought out at the early stage that I got to imagine that there is, but I also wouldn't necessarily bank on it. But even playing through this experience, I think, is going to be a ton of fun. Games for me don't necessarily have to be 1,000 hours of gameplay for me to have had a good time.
Other than that, really enjoying the game, and I'm excited to play more of it. Whereas in Marathon, I'm more just like morbidly curious about that one. So, but for now, it's mostly standard fare. It doesn't do anything incredibly innovative and different other than these huge robots walking around, but nobody cooperates and does the boss battle.
Difficulty is, when they started working on these, extraction shooters were very, very rare. So there was a lot of hope that, you know, they could stand out by being the extraction shooter. But what's happening now is that all of these extraction shooters are coming out at the exact same time, or pretty close to it. Just today, we looked at Hunger, which is the new extraction shooter from the team that made Hell Let Loose. Arc Raiders, which is from the Finals devs. Marathon, which is coming from Bungie. And these are all extraction shooters. And I guarantee you, in the next 18 months, 2 years, you're going to hear about a lot more extraction shooters. This is just a new trend.
The Marathon Alpha released recently, and its environments are covered with assets lifted from poster designs I made in 2017. Bungie is of course not obligated to hire me when making a game that draws overwhelmingly from the same design language I have refined for the last decade, but clearly my work was good enough to pillage for ideas and plaster all over their game without pay or attribution. I don't have the resources nor the energy to spare to pursue this legally, but I have lost count of the number of times a major company has deemed it easier to pay a designer to imitate or steal my work than to write me an email. In 10 years, I have never made a consistent income from this work, and I am tired of designers from huge companies mood boarding and parasiticing my designs while I struggle to make a living.
I'm completely floored, she wrote. This is my full-time job. I sell these posters online. They're not obscure. A major company has deemed it easier to pay a designer to imitate or trace rather than license or commission the work.
Insane fake quotable, I am unemployed at DualShockers.
So the last thing that Bungie needs right now is a controversy. Marathon being a game that they're highly dependent on for it to be their next big hit, combined with the fact that the general reception surrounding it hasn't been entirely positive, makes for an environment where they need as much positive press as possible. And so when you've got a controversy like plagiarism plaguing the whole game, that only spells further doom for a title that already kind of looks a bit like it might be down on arrival in terms of the reputation with the community.
So, Randy's got 99 problems, but plagiarism ain't one. Unlike Bungie, where plagiarism seems to be at least 4 of their problems, but then again, I think their problems number well above 99 at this point, so I guess it's all relative. What the hell am I talking about? Well, by now, you've no doubt heard about the stolen art scandal that has completely poleaxed Marathon and, by extension, Bungie.
We immediately investigated a concern regarding unauthorized use of artist decals in Marathon and confirmed that a former Bungie artist included these in a texture sheet that was ultimately used in-game. This issue was unknown by our existing art team, and we are still reviewing how this oversight occurred. We take matters like this very seriously. We have reached out to @4NT1 R34L to discuss this issue and are committed to do right by the artist. As a matter of policy, we do not use the work of artists without their permission. To prevent similar issues in the future, we are conducting a thorough review of our in-game assets, specifically those done by the former Bungie artist, and implementing stricter checks to document all artist contributions. We value the creativity and dedication of all artists who contribute to our games, and we are committed to doing right by them. Thank you for bringing this to our attention.
All right, we're live. Hi, everybody. How's it going? I'm Joe. In case you don't know me, I'm the game director here on Marathon. To my left here, or potentially on right on your screen, depending on if it's mirrored, is Joe Cross, everybody's favorite Joe, our director on Marathon. Sitting across from me, who's not on camera, is Andrew Witz, gameplay director, and we're gonna. Who's not on camera is. Andrew Witz, gameplay.
Bungie responds to Marathon art theft claims Bungie has promised to undertake a full review of Marathon's assets after discovering stolen material used in promotional materials.
Marathon delay possible after marketing plans reportedly canceled.
Marathon release is in jeopardy. Sony canceled marketing of Bungie game due to plagiarism.
Bungie developers admit
Bungie
to putting
accused of
stolen
plagiarizing
art
art,
in new game
but
Marathon.
blames all the alleged
Bungie
Marathon art
admits to
theft on a
lifting
former
art
employee.
from Marathon without credit after visual and musical
Marathon is
artist
currently in a
Anti-Real
tough
accused
spot,
Bungie has been
Bungie
with
accused
negative
yet again of
news
plagiarizing
seemingly being
art.
reported
Marathon,
at
the
every
new
stop.
extraction
A new
shooter from
report
Bungie,
Via
alleges
new
that Marathon
reports,
developer
it's being shared
Bungie
that paid
has
marketing
based on
efforts
digital
by
source
Marathon
to admit
were
that the
external
external
artists.
artist has been used
That
within
report
application
echoes
Marathon
previous
without
information
consent.
about marketing
without credit.
Marathon Development Update. Thank you not only for your passionate feedback around the Marathon reveal and alpha playtest, but also for your patience while we took the time to listen closely and chart our next steps. Through every comment and real-time conversation on social media and Discord, your voice has been strong and clear. We've taken this to heart, and we know we need more time to craft Marathon into the game that truly reflects your passion. After much discussion within our dev team, we've made the decision to delay the September 23rd release. The alpha test created an opportunity for us to calibrate and focus the game on what will make it uniquely compelling: survival under pressure, mystery and lore around every corner, raid-like endgame challenges, and Bungie's genre-defining FPS combat. We're using this time to empower the team to create the intense, high-stakes experience that a title like Marathon is built around. This means deepening the relationship between the developers and the game's most important voices, our players. Over the next few months, we'll continue closed testing to deploy gameplay updates and test new features as they come online.